Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Concrete Blueprint. I am joined once again by Andrew Quick, the owner, CEO, and president of Quick Concrete Solutions. How are we doing, Andrew?
Doing wonderful. Absolutely wonderful, Mike. Minus the rain today. It's slowing us down on progress, but still smiling. Got a good day in the office. We'll put it that way.
You know, the thing about it is, this is where you and I can sit and have good conversations. What's bad for you is good for me because, it hinders your business just a little bit, but at least this way you and I get to talk and we can educate everybody on, all the right things to do with their concrete needs.
Amen to that. I'll absolutely love it.
We're going to be talking driveways today, buddy. And, you're going to let us know how you can replace a driveway the right way so that it'll last 30 plus years. So the big question that I have for you, and we'll cover all the different, aspects of the question is, how do you replace a driveway properly? Driveway replacement process. What does driveway replacement involve? And the steps to replace the concrete driveway. So we got a lot to talk about, so we'll just kind of jump right in on it. What is the first step in properly replacing a concrete driveway? And why does old concrete need to be fully torn out and hauled away?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Mike. So at Quick Concrete Solutions in Waukee, we kind of follow a 7-step program to replace the driveway the right way.
Okay.
Without skipping any of them, it's likely that concrete's going to fail early. Now, our first biggest step is just complete the tear out and haul off of old concrete and then start assessing all at the same time. So as we're extracting that concrete, breaking it up, we're looking at everything else that's going on underneath the concrete, which is usually like our soils, checking our soils, see what we got, understanding what our runoff looks like, if we've got water coming in, if there's, maybe sand veins that are running through underneath the driveway. Often we've seen a lot of developments. We'll see these irrigation lines that have broken, and they'll just be releasing water year round, which causes huge voids of driveways. So quite a few things we look at in the step one. And then from step one, it's really kind of, again, going back to that soil. We really want to see exactly what we've got. It's evaluating all the
So why is it important to evaluate the subgrade and soil conditions before you pour the driveway? Why is that important?
Yeah, you betcha. So again, Iowa is a unique place, much like everywhere else in the U.S. They all have their kind of like pros and cons of pouring concrete in those different areas. So like Iowa, we have a pretty consistently decent subgrade, which subgrade is going to be like you got topsoil, you got different sorts of clay, you've got sand. There's all these things that go below the earth. The biggest thing we're looking for is a good solid clay. So good solid clay base, it compacts extremely well. It's going to be able to be something that we can put rock on and build up from and have that firm foundation for that driveway. Now, expansive clays, sand, stuff of that nature, those are typically things we want to stay away from, particularly when we're doing driveway work. Now, if we're doing a garage or, there's other applications, maybe we would use sand, but particularly for driveways, we're really just want to get that proper subgrade, get the rock in there, and get good compaction.
So you're talking about compaction. What does proper compaction mean? What does that mean? And how does that affect the long-term strength of a concrete driveway?
Yeah. So proper compaction is literally, again, looking for those proper subgrade types. So again, getting a good, nice clay in there and then be able to put like what we call a road stone. And a road stone is an 1.5 inch down rock base. And that 1.5 inch down rock base goes literally 1.5 inch size rock all the way down to like what we consider fines, almost like sand. And once you mix all that together, which is already pre-done when we pick it up from the quarry, we get that in there, get it laid out. We, get it properly compacted with our machines. It turns it into almost something as hard as concrete. So it's extremely important to do that versus if you're to say just strip out all this concrete and then dump, pea gravel on the ground, That's pea gravel does not compact well. It's not meant for an open space like that. Whereas in like a basement, you would use pea gravel because it's got confined spaces. It can only go
Gotcha.
so. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So, you were also just earlier, you had mentioned rebar. Why is rebar placement so important, and why are rebar chairs a must during driveway replacement? Well, and
Yes.
what's a rebar chair? So, kind of
Man.
go into all this.
So amazing questions. Rebar and rebar chairs in general, I kind of want to take a step away from almost driveways.
Go ahead.
Because of the importance of this. So pretty much every interstate highway system that you see at every control joint, which is where there's saw cut, etc., there's rebar running through all of that. And what that's doing, it's holding all that concrete in place together. So as there's all these forces moving up and down and trying to pull away, that rebar holds it in place. Or different types of rebar will allow concrete to move just the tiniest bit. A lot of people think, once concrete is poured, it'll never like move a millimeter, which is not true. Concrete moves a lot more than what people think. So in our interstate systems, we have it built that way. So why wouldn't we want to do the exact same thing in our driveways that we use every single day? And we have load transfers, AKA your car pulling in the driveway, car backing out of the driveway. And then, other things, always thinking futuristically, hey, maybe you need a new roof or you have other construction work you want done later. You want a driveway that's going to stand up to that. Like that's just, it's not a one and done. It looks pretty, leave, no rebar out of it or leave the rebar sitting on the ground. At that point, you paid for a product that's doing you no good because the rebar is not in the center of the concrete, which is where all the push pull movement happens. And that's where the rebar comes into play and actually like helps keep things together. So I love that you brought up that rebar piece of it. I could talk on rebar for a long time and all the other placement stuff. But anyways, regardless, rebar is very important. And those rebar chairs.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah. So there's different forms of rebar chairs, but essentially it's as simple as a piece of plastic, or it could be a brick that literally, this is the thickness of your slab.
Right.
It keeps that rebar dead center in your concrete as it's being poured. So instead of your rebar being down here at the bottom of your concrete, it puts it right in the middle where it's doing all the good. So now it's doing its job. After you've poured that slab, that rebar is still here in the center instead of being down at the bottom, which is going to cause absolute failure later down the road. And then again, you paid for something that's not doing its job. And unfortunately, we see that all the time through driveways and all sorts of other concrete projects. It's very common. It's required by all city, federal, state type of entities. So why aren't we not using those best practices on our residential stuff too, right? And that's
Absolutely.
we want to use those best practices everywhere we go and everything that we pour.
Very good. No, see, that clears up a lot of questions. I learned something new today.
Yeah.
So now putting your rebar in a chair and having it fail, and like you said, you're paying for something that's not doing its job. It's kind of like your lazy employee. You're paying them, but they're not doing anything.
That's exactly right. Yep, you got it, Mike. That's exactly
it. So when you're talking concrete here, and I know you know a lot about this, which obviously the rest of us don't. How do you choose the right concrete mix design, and why is concrete not just concrete? I mean, it's just rocks and water and dust and stuff, right? Right?
You'd like to think so, but totally not true. There's a lot of other
clear it up.
They go into concrete. So yes, I mean, kind of your basic mix designs. It's yes, you got rock, you got sand, cement, water, etc. Those all come together and they make a product. However, concrete's gotten so advanced. There's all these other chemicals that can be added to that mix that actually strengthen the binding, like all the binding agents by quite a bit. So, for instance, like on a bridge or something, you might be looking at using something like a 10,000 PSI concrete, which is extremely high PSI. I mean, I don't think I'd ever use it in anything but something like that, or an approach to a bridge, whatever. But point being is, you wouldn't need that application for a driveway. A driveway, we look at stuff that's more in the 4,000 minimum. Really, we like to use at least a 5,000 PSI mix. Again, it goes back to that thinking forward. Driveways are not something that you want to pay for multiple times. You don't want to redo them multiple times. It's like buying a house. You want to do it once and be done with it and have it done right. You don't have to redo it later, right? So we look at it as, okay, what's your future look like with this house? What's your future look like in general? Do you have other construction needs that need done? And from there, we start selecting, okay, maybe a 4,000 would work okay, but really we should maybe be at 5,000 or even up to a 7,000 max PSI concrete, depending on dollars too, because the cost is different.
Yep.
We may have some people that want less rebar, but higher PSI concrete, which is something we can do. We can also do really cool things with fiber. So whether it be structural fiber, which is like 1.5 inch down fibers, all mixed together inside the concrete when the concrete truck is sitting there rolling and turning, and they throw all that fiber in. It's just literally a structural fiber they throw in those trucks. And it adds strength and capability for that concrete to keep those cracks tight, which is what we want. Concrete's going to get hard and it's going to crack. Those are two known facts. Yep. So realistically, just going back to the driveway thing, we look at a few things. What is the value to the customer? What ultimately are they needing long-term as the homeowner? And then what's their budget? We like to talk about all those things because we want to give them the best product possible without giving them. Some people don't need the Cadillac of products. Some people just need something that gets them to and from, maybe a Toyota product, if you will. We always like to get the Cadillac of products because that's just who we are as a company, integrity first, and then, everything down from there. I want to do 30, 40-year driveways all day long. But again, sometimes people may have to step down and just for cost reasons, because unfortunately with materials and stuff, it's not a cheap quest. Replacing driveways are not cheap if done properly. And that's one of my biggest things I always try to educate clients on, or potential clients, is, by the way, there's a million ways to pour this and make it look nice. There's really only one or two ways to do it proper and still achieve a good long-term product. So we stay true to ourselves and try to educate the clients as best as we can. And there's a couple options out there, but yeah, we could talk about it for hours, and I'm sure nobody else wants to listen to my science stuff, but
no, you've cleared up a lot of things for me. So you were talking about your pump trucks and dumping the fibers in earlier. So when are pump trucks needed during a driveway replacement, and how do they help with proper concrete placement?
Yeah. So again, pump trucks, absolutely love using pump trucks. So pump trucks have been around for a long time. They became a lot more popular, I would say, within the last 20 years. You see more and more companies using them. For us personally, I don't want to say it's a non-negotiable, but in most scenarios, it's non-negotiable. We always will use a pump truck, and we lay out those costs to use a pump truck because it gives not only our guys the best, most efficient way to place that concrete, it also gives the best end product possible when you're using that pump truck. We work a lot with Freedom, and there's a couple other pump companies here in town, but particularly Freedom, and they always know how we want things. Like it's always, hey, set up here, set up this way. This is why we're doing it. And again, the main reasoning is for us being able to put concrete down in the spots where, instead of having to drive over rebar or like drive around through yards and tear up yards or do whatever, we've got that rebar up on the rebar chairs. We don't have to worry about bending it or messing with the rebar chairs or trying to set rebar chairs as we're pouring. It's very straightforward. The guys are easily able to work out, from wherever we start. It gives us a lot of flexibility too. So the pump truck all day long is worth it to me in a monetary and end of day a quality product way. And as that concrete's shooting down from that pump truck, I mean, it's placing it to make sure, you don't have big voids and stuff. Sometimes that can happen a little bit if you got just, truck dumping or whatever. If it's not getting puddled correctly, there can be some issues. So pump truck eliminates a lot of not only issues, but it also creates a better end product. And that's why we love using pump trucks so much.
No, that makes complete sense. So, yeah, I guess I didn't even really think about it because the only time, just being not a concrete guy,
Yeah.
and I'm not around construction a lot. The only time I ever see these pump trucks are when I am watching, like Insane Pools, and you see them doing it on pools. I guess I didn't even think about it being used for a practical application like a driveway.
You betcha. Yeah. You bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So
all day long. The kids love it. Everybody in the streets, they love it, unless we're blocking their house. Usually we try to give multiple days heads up just for the viewers understanding. But we catch one or two every year that we somehow make somebody mad. But regardless, no, it's a beautiful way to pour concrete and give somebody the best product possible. So
awesome. So I am Joe Homeowner here, and I just had a meeting with you, and I said, Andrew's my guy, and you come out and you rip up my driveway. You do your soil assessment. You get everything compacted right. See, I am learning. And then you get your rebar chairs in there. You set your rebar. We are ready to go. Your pump truck comes in, and I've got this gorgeous driveway. Now, what finishing and curing steps should I expect after the concrete is all poured and pumped in there?
Yeah. So again, great question. So it's kind of there's this beautiful kind of two-part to it. So us as the concrete guys, as soon as concrete's poured, we got it looking beautiful. We're starting to look and assess the curing period while the concrete's still what we call green, which basically means it's still in a stage of curing, and it is for quite a while, but it's still in a stage where we could put indentations in it. It's still in a stage where we use a special saw to saw cut our control joints into the concrete. Just to say, to put it in light terms, it's still fragile. It's still a fragile piece of concrete. You wouldn't want anybody like walking on it unless it was like one of us who knows, proper ways to, navigate around on concrete. But it goes from that curing period to us stripping those forms, us getting those saw cuts in there as early as we can to make sure if there is any kind of cracking that it's following our control joints, which we obviously put in to alleviate any kind of stress within the concrete as it's curing. And then, the curing piece is depending on the mix we use. We can get concrete, what we call kind of a hot mix. We can get concrete to cure within, I would say 6 to 12 hours. If we needed to in an emergency mode, or maybe we're pouring some concrete outside of a doorway, and technically we could even go a little bit faster than that. But in most practical, since we're talking primarily driveways, 99% of the time we're using concrete it's a 5 to 7 day cure period. So we get everything cut, looking good, form stripped, everything backfilled, everything seated, making it look nice, keeping everything blocked off. We usually say 5 to 7 days, depending on, if we got gloomy weather like we have today, or if we've got 90-degree weather. That same mix can do quite a bit difference in terms of its cure timing, just depending on that sunshine and the humidity and a few other factors. But I would expect usually 5 to 7 days. You're able to drive on it. You're able to park on it. Again, depending on what concrete mix we use, but most of them will do 5 to 7 days and be okay for light use. I always say if it's if you got a bunch of heavy equipment or bigger trucks or any of that stuff, let's go ahead and wait 10, maybe 12 days. Again, just depending on application. So, and then as far as if you're looking futuristically and you really want to invest in the driveway, I like to do kind of same time. You can do, and I think we talked this previous episode, but you can also do actual cure and seal on top of your concrete later down the road. I would call it more of a seal product than a cure product, but it'll actually help seal off the top of your concrete. And that's something you're waiting at least 30 days for. You want all that.
Okay.
You want all the water and everything to release. You want everything to evaporate out. Otherwise, you'll trap it and you can cause all sorts of issues with sprawling, etc. So we stay away from, speeding things up unless we absolutely have to in that period. But generally, if you get a driveway poured by us, 5 to 7 days is kind of your wait period to utilize the driveway. Then there's further steps beyond that. We can seal off expansion joints. We can seal off the entire driveway with special seal mixes, etc. And they'll give you some longevity, in case, you get some oil on the ground or whatever the case may be, or even in the situation as in Iowa, we get a lot of salt and stuff, which I know we've talked about before too. So,
So let me ask you this. What separates a driveway that lasts like 5 or 10 years from ones that last 30 years?
Yep. So really, almost everything we've talked about today it all comes into play. So, anybody can tear out a driveway. That's the easy part. There's still things that happen occasionally. We see people pushing in foundation walls and causing way bigger messes. But in general, the demo part's the easy part that shouldn't really mess with your 5 or 10 year to 30-year driveway. Now, again, assessing the soil, huge, absolutely huge. Assessing your soil, making sure you've got proper soil types, bringing in the correct rock, getting that compacted in after you've done your assessment of the soil, doing all proper compaction, if proctor testing as well. And then fast forward, getting your concrete mix design correct. And then also what is very important within that piece, we've talked a little bit in the past, but I'd like to hit on it again, is that concrete truck shows up with a mix design that I order. So for instance, say I order a 5,000 PSI concrete. We'll keep it easy and simple and just say that for the viewers. But once that truck shows up, there's a possibility that, if you don't have the proper workers working for you, it might be a really hot day and they want things easy. They might say, hey, let's go and dump 30, 40 gallons of water in this truck while it's sitting there. And they're just going to sit there, rotate and rotate. They're going to make that concrete like just pure liquid, which almost is self-leveling at that point. That is a ginormous thing, and we see it often, especially in a lot of new houses, and I've seen it in other areas. But you've basically taken a really good mix and turned it into junk by adding all this water, because what you're doing is just...
Thank you for not swearing, by the way.
Yes. I had to catch myself there.
I saw it. Keep going.
But it's one of those things. That's why, with our company, Quick Concrete Solutions, it always goes back to integrity first. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to allow my guys to do that. I know my guys don't do that. I've got eyes and ears everywhere. Like we poured a million things, everything from DOD to Corps engineers, etc. We know the drill. We work through it, and we don't bite off more than we can chew. And we still take care of our guys and make sure everything's good. So there's a lot of little sneak things like that you can turn a really good product into something that's going to fall to pieces. And then just in general, kind of going back to putting, a lot of people will do a markup and say, hey, we'll seal your driveway right after we get done pouring it. Well, now they've sealed it and they've trapped all that moisture and everything in there. And now you're going to later down the road have all these surface issues with your concrete. So there's a good handful of things that really come into play. But those are the main ones that we see the most. And again, I can't stress the importance of getting proper subgrade and ensuring that you've got a good solid foundation to pour on. It's no different than any house, when you're doing basement walls or a big building or anything else. I mean, you can go to anything from family to construction to you name it. Everything starts with a good foundation. And that, again, is something that we stress within Quick Concrete Solutions in Waukee, that we start with a good foundation every time. And we let our homeowners and folks know, hey, we might have this bad section. Come take a look at it. Let me show you why we don't want to use this. And by the way, yes, this is going to cost you maybe a few extra bucks, but that's just an unforeseen issue. We don't know all until we get everything torn out, but at least we can walk through that and explain that. So, great questions.
So we'll wind this up, and this is a timeline question. We've already kind of talked about all the different steps involved in the driveway. So timeline, because you know how everybody wants everything done now. I tell you what, when I go into Verizon and say I want a new phone, I want to walk out of that store in 10 minutes with a new phone.
Yep.
That's the way society is. So let's give everybody some real expectations on timeline. What does the Quick Concrete Solutions driveway replacement process look like from the first call to final walkthrough?
Yes. Another great question. So, here at Iowa Quick Concrete Solutions, we strive to be expedient about everything that we do, from not only timelines, but also scheduling, etc. So, and we stay realistic. We stay very realistic. We understand weather and all the things. When we look at driveways, anything, trying to go to cut like a majority of the public, most people own somewhat of a cookie cutter house, maybe a 2-car or 3-car garage driveway, doesn't matter. You're typically 2 days in and out. Some of the more complicated stuff where we're doing the driveway, the service walk, the patio, and a few other things. Maybe we're now at 3.5 or 4 days to get this entire project done, but we're not rushing it. And that's us taking the time to make sure every single step is good to go. Homeowners are happy. They like the forms. They like how it looks, they like the layout. That's another thing. We're really communicative with our clients and make sure that every step that they're happy with. Typical driveway, 2 days. I mean, that gets most driveways done. Then occasionally we get hit with one of those, quarter-mile driveways, out in the country, something like that. Yeah, we're looking closer maybe to a week to get that done.
Yep.
But very capable of doing that and doing it well and ensuring, again, we've got all the proper subgrade, subbase, all that stuff. Everything is good. And we've got the right guys, the right tools and equipment also, which is huge when doing these projects. So, it's a pretty short timeline, considering we see a lot of other projects, whether it be landscape, whatever, two different things. Usually will take several weeks or whatever. It's really not bad. And then, of course, the other piece I like to include with the timeline, just remembrance, usually 5 to 7 days on the cure piece. And again, some of that stuff can be sped up. You got to spend a little bit more money, do different admixtures, different design mixes, whatever. But yeah, that's the gist of driveways.
There you go. So now I know everything I need to know about driveways. You've given up all your secrets, so now I'm going to go start my own driveway. I'm just kidding. Please. I really know nothing about it. I have.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Super easy.
Absolutely. It's easy. I don't believe you. I am too lazy for that. I like sitting here and doing what I'm doing. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule. Thanking us for the rain so that we have a little time to chat. So, Andrew, as always, it is always a blast talking to you here on the Concrete Blueprint, brought to you by Concrete Solutions of Waukee. I'm here with Andrew Quick, and I look forward to our next talk, buddy.
Mike, always appreciate you. Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
All right, buddy.